Okay, folks, in the interest of time, I know there's a few more folks we expect to drift into the meeting, but let's go ahead and get started so we can get finished on time. I have, let's see, about 11:35, and I want to call this meeting of the CIC to order. Staff, if you could please call the roll.
Diana Lopez, Frank Gonzalez, Julian Villarreal, Lawson Picasso, Adelita Cantu, Michael Kennick, Tom Corser, Vanessa Alvarado, David Gannon, Bob Zapata, Steve Bonnet, Aaron Stein, Maria Nelson, Christopher Fulton, Sarah Villarreal, Frank Dunn, Peter Onofre.
Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you. Now, if staff can now please lead us in our safety message, invocation, and Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning. This morning we're going to go over the evacuation procedures. I'll review the evacuation procedures so that we are prepared to be safe in the event of an emergency. If you hear the fire alarm, follow the instructions announced through the PA system. If asked to evacuate, use the glass doors to exit outside and verbally alert others. We'll move to the main parking lot in front of the building or the AT&T parking lot at the McCullough-Brooklyn bridges. Our security team will be watching and will notify the appropriate emergency services. Lastly, we'll also have employees nearby who are trained to administer first aid if needed. Safety is a top priority, and while we hope this information is never needed, we want to ensure we are prepared. Additionally, we ask that you remain seated during the duration of the meeting, keep the aisles clear, and do not block any exits. Please bow your heads for the invocation. We thank you for the many blessings you have freely given to each of us. We ask that your presence to guide this meeting of the CPS Energy Community Input Committee. Provide them with the knowledge, compassionate, and wise counsel needed as they discuss the business matters on the agenda today. Help us to all remember that we are stewards acting on behalf of our customers, and provide us with the grace to serve all well. We ask this in your name, amen. Now if we can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any members of the public signed up to provide comments today?
Chair, there's no one signed up for public comment today.
Okay, we'll move ahead. It's a great privilege today that I get to have our past chair sit next to me and the vice chair sitting on the other side of me, and I hopefully will keep me out of trouble today. But the other reason I'm excited that Lawson is here, so we can properly recognize her for her outstanding work as the chairman of this committee last year. I've got a little something for you. So on behalf of the CIC and the staff, we want to show you, we want you to have this as a memory of your fun year that you had chairing this committee and all the great things that you did for us and for CPS. Thank you very much, everybody. If you need to. Okay, the other exciting thing today is we have our newest member. Dave Gannon is here, his first member. As you remember, we elected him, and actually we recommended him to the board, and the board approved our recommendation, and this is Dave's first meeting, so be sure and greet him and welcome him to the group. Thanks for joining us, Dave. Also want to recognize and thank our CPS Energy Board Chair, Francis Romero is here, and thank you once again for joining us. It's always a pleasure. I think also, Frank, I think this is your last meeting? Frank Gonzalez? Is that right? I'm telling, I think the staff told me that your term expires after this, sometime after this meeting, so just want to make sure you got recognized just in case we don't see you again. So thank you for your service. Okay, on the agenda today, our main topic is going to be our briefing on Vision 2030, so this will be the first time we'll get to hear about that. So we're excited about that. The other thing that we want to accomplish today is we're going to have a short meeting, and at around 12:30, I hope that we can adjourn and go to our working group meetings. And the only order of business there is to elect officers for this year, and I hope we also will stay and just informally talk about possible issues and topics that your particular work group would like to look at this year. One of the things I would like to do on when Elena Ball comes up for her presentation, one of the things that happened that I was a little concerned about last month, and I thought we ran a little long, and so I'd like to try something different this month, if y'all will bear with me. I'd like to have the staff go through their entire presentation, and then at the end we open up for questions, and we try to limit it to one question at a time, one question per person, so that everybody on this committee has an opportunity to ask a question or make a comment. Love to see if that works. My intent is that everybody on this committee gets an opportunity to have input. And we're going to try that because I think we got a little bit off base there last month. I'm going to try something different. So with your acceptance, that would be great. Okay, so now at this point, we'll go ahead and receive our briefing from on the CPS Energy's Vision 2030 strategy from Elena Ball, who is our Chief Strategy Officer. Ms. Ball, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. Well, in the spirit of making sure we stay on time, I'm going to dive right in. So today we have really two items on the agenda. The first is just to update this group on our Vision 2030 goals and strategic initiatives. And then we're doing something a little bit new. We quarterly report to the board on our enterprise milestones. These are kind of the things, the big groups of activities that we're doing, our measures and targets. So I wanted to, ahead of we're at the beginning of a fiscal year for us at CPS Energy, provide this group a view into what we're proposing for this year. And before I get started, I do want to recognize the teams. This has been an enterprise-wide effort, so everyone in the organization's been involved, but sort of our train conductors, the folks who have been wrangling a lot of this work are here in the audience, so I just wanted to give a shout out. I get to be the spokesperson for this, but there's been a tremendous amount of work, and so definitely want to recognize the team members here who are with us today for all the work that they've done. So just as a reminder, we, beginning at the beginning of 2024, really started looking beyond a 5-year window into what do we want to be as an organization, and we went through a very inclusive process, both internally and externally, to talk about a concept of Horizon 2050, really thinking long-term about what are the outcomes we want to have as an organization, and set forward this framework. And we set in motion a new vision, empowering our community for generations, affirmed and modified our mission a bit, just to focus on safely powering our community with reliable, affordable, and cleaner energy, and have set in motion 5 key pillars for the organization. And so as we think long-term in an ideal state out in 2050, we want to have electric and gas services or energy services that are always on. We already have very high levels of reliability, but we want to continue to drive that because we do recognize that all of the good work that the organization does ultimately powers the homes, businesses, and lives of the community that we serve. Value, which is a combination of affordability and excellent options and services. We recognize that as we go through a transition of driving toward higher levels of reliability, we also need to do that in a manner that keeps our bills affordable, not only when compared to other utilities, but other communities, because we do have a community that has a significant portion of our population that is at or below the poverty level. And then transitioning to cleaner energy. We have taken a balanced approach, but as we make transitions in our generation offerings and our service offerings, we do want to continually reduce our impact on the environment. We need to do that in a manner that keeps our financial strength intact. Being a financially strong organization helps us not only keep our borrowing costs low, which helps with affordability and value, but also allows us to move forward on initiatives to strengthen reliability, to transition to cleaner forms of energy, and we do that by our financial health. And all of this is accomplished ultimately through our team members. And so making sure that we're recruiting, attracting, retaining, and developing our team that can think innovatively and come up with new ways to serve our customers with excellence. Just as a reminder, this is our current scorecard. I'm not going to go through here in detail, but just to kind of give you a sense of what we're currently operating on. We just closed our fiscal year, and we've focused on a number of areas and have had really, I think, a pretty good, a very strong year in executing on our Vision 2027 plan. And we have a number of measures that we're going to be moving forward with because they represent these key areas that we're focused on. For our milestones in our current plan, we've achieved or are on track with all of them, with the exception of one that we intentionally slowed down. So we have a milestone in our current plan relative to constructing new plants. And we, as you all may recall, made some strategic acquisitions that were lower cost and more timely than building new assets. So while that's showing at risk, it was an intentional action that the management team took to bring resources on in a more affordable manner and sooner. And so this is just a look at our current measures. So as we look to 2030, which is going to mirror the areas of 2050, the 5 areas of our strategic plan reflect reliability, the value, cleaner energy, financial strength, and team excellence. And I won't restate what I already have covered, but that's effectively how the lens we're going to view all the work that we have. If we're taking on a strategic set of work, is it to advance reliability, affordability, and value? Are we advancing clean energy? And how are we operating our business to enhance financial strength and develop our team? So I will touch on this. So as we are thinking about moving from 2027 to 2030, we've really focused on what are the outcomes and made sure that we're thinking about what's ultimately, the priorities that we have as an organization. As you can imagine, an organization our size, we have hundreds of projects and initiatives. And in fact, our business plans, when we calculated all the discrete actions in the various business plans, we had over 200 individual programs or projects in our business plans. So we've been going through an exercise to focus those, to align them to the Vision 2030 objectives, and really make sure that we're focusing on the large work that is going to ultimately deliver value to our customers and our community. As we're working on all of this work, the teams work cross-functionally, not only to discuss the different work, but also to make sure that our goals are shared. And that, as we deploy initiatives, that we're working with our finance team and that we're funding initiatives that are driving system improvements, reliability, and resiliency. As we're setting targets, just as kind of a backdrop, when we think about a measure, we do a few things as an organization. We do look at that measure historically and see how have we performed historically. We look out and say, what things are impacting this measure, what things, are going to be headwinds or tailwinds as we think about forecasts and trends. everywhere we can, we strive to benchmark our performance, both against other utilities, but also against other industries. And then we think about how quickly can we improve a measure, or what levels of resources and funding are available to help us improve performance. And then ultimately, ensuring that the work and the improvements are of value to our customers. So I'm going to touch on this view, but I do want to touch on a couple of new measures that we're bringing into view in our scorecard. So in our existing scorecard, we have 8 measures, and we're continuing with those measures. We think they're really representative of what we're trying to achieve in these 5 areas. So for reliability, one of the things that we have measured is effectively for all of our customers on average, if they have an outage, how long is that outage? And for this year, we're running at about 75 minutes, so a little bit more than an hour and 15 minutes on average is what an outage is taking. And so, we're going to be recommending setting an improved target over that, but of 73 minutes. But ideally, over time, we do want to see that come down. As we think to 2030, the teams are also looking at a number of customer-facing metrics. So over the next 2 to 3 years, we're gonna evolve this metric to not only be thinking about the system, but also thinking about the customer experience. So some of the measures that the teams are beginning to stand up and build are looks at customers who've had multiple outages, right? Not only how long are you out, but do we have hotspots or customers that have had multiple outages, and how are we driving programs to reduce repeat outages? Also looking at customers who've had very long outages, right? So for this year, we're focused on this measure, but I do want to signal to the CIC that we are going to evolve that measure over time to give us more fidelity in the real customer experience, especially for customers who have some of those outlier experiences. And it helps us focus our dollars and our emphasis on hotspots in our system. Our power plant availability is important. We do measure something called critical months availability, which looks at the peak periods on our system. So the winter months, which we're in right now, January and February, and then our summer months, which run June to September. So those periods when we know that demand is higher, that power prices can lift, really focusing on ensuring our power plants are available to run during those periods of time. Gas safety is another area of reliability we focus on, and that's ultimately ensuring that when we get reported leaks, that we're on top of them and that we close them timely. From a value perspective, we currently measure something called engaged customer relationship, which is a measure that effectively is, you can think of it as kind of our connectedness, customers who are really connected to the organization and how they're feeling about us. And so this year, we had set a target of 699. We're coming in higher than that, so we are proposing a lift in that measure. You may be aware, another big part of value is not only our customers and how we're providing services to our customers, but we're a huge purchaser in the area, right? So we have a large budget. We have a lot of work, construction and otherwise in our community. So we're really committed to making sure that as we're making supply chain decisions, we're investing in our community. So we have a local goal of our purchasing dollars going 70% or higher or more to local supply chain partners. A new measure that we've shown to the CIC and to our board, but we're actually going to put on our scorecard this year, is our combined residential bill. We, through lots of wonderful decision-making that predates most of us in the room, the utility has been set up for many decades through wise decision-making to be at a place where we have some of the lowest combined in electric and gas bills in the country, and certainly in the state, where of the major cities, we're the lowest bill. So we want to keep that in focus and make sure as we're investing that we're keeping our bills low, again, because of how important it is to manage affordability, to lift up families and businesses in this community. A new one that is not in our that we monitor and measure and plan toward, but we haven't had on our scorecard, is cleaner energy. And so we are going to start reporting on carbon intensity. Again, we report carbon to the EPA and total emissions, but for view to the board and to ourselves, we're going to start reporting on that. We we are going to talk about a lot of things around this because the actions of the utility do not solely control carbon intensity, right? What's going on in the market, the price of natural gas, a number of factors do drive carbon intensity. But as we make generation changes, as we invest more in energy efficiency, demand response, and move to cleaner technology, we will see this carbon intensity moving down over time. And again, we want to make sure that that's in view and part of our continued move toward our CAP goals. Financial strength is a suite of financial measures where we're focused on ensuring that the utility has good financial strength, that we have good reserves, we've got low cost of borrowing, and that we're investing at a prudent pace, ultimately to keep our borrowing costs down and keep enough liquidity to weather tough days like extreme weather events, but also to be opportunistic so that when we have an opportunity maybe to do something really beneficial for our customers, that we've got the financial capacity to do so. And then in team excellence, we're going to continue to measure both our employee engagement measures, sort of how our employees come to work and how they contribute to our mission. And we do that across many industries. We don't just look at utilities. We look at, through the Gallup company, we look at a standardized survey that measures our performance across the globe. And then safety. We currently measure recordable incident rates. These are safety incidents that rise above a first aid, something where someone has, an injury or an accident that requires a higher level of medical attention. Over time, we are going to evolve this metric as well, just like we talked about with reliability, to look at more higher risk potential injuries. So not only looking at, where we have severity in our injuries or accidents, but also looking at how can we engineer out and put in place controls to reduce the likelihood and risk of severe injuries. So over the next 2 years, you're going to start seeing a measure called sticky, and it's super technical. It means stuff that can kill you. It's kind of it kind of sounds silly, but it's super serious, and it is about us being intentional about not only focusing on all forms of accidents, but severe injuries that could cause, permanent damage or loss of life. So these are the measures that we have for this coming year. And this is a lot of words, but I mentioned, kind of over 200 individual projects or programs in all of our individual business plans. We've culled this down to a handful of the large bodies of work that we've got planned for this year. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I am going to pick off a couple just to give you a sense of what we're going to be reporting quarterly and talking with our board about. We have, under reliability, we have, for example, the new ultra-high voltage transmission work that the state has enacted to move power throughout the state. You'll hear it called 765 kV. We have a significant amount of work, as we're one of 5 utilities in phase 1 that's going to be constructing these large transmission lines out to West Texas and down into the south region of Texas. We also have, we're going to continue to execute on our power gen plan. Something we don't talk a lot to this group about, but I think as subcommittee we have a lot of operational technologies that we're upgrading. Just like you hear about our Evolve ERP system change, where we're upgrading our business systems, we have a lot of technology that underpins the neural network that runs our electric and gas systems that are going through upgrades. On value, I just touched on it, but a significant body of work that is well underway, and we're really, the rubber is meeting the road now, is the roughly $350 million project that's replacing a significant portion of our technology landscape. We're replacing our enterprise resource planning system of SAP to Oracle and dozens of other systems. I'll touch on cleaner energy. Right now we have 4 RFPs out for community solar, transmission or large bulk connected solar, wind, and energy storage. And so, work such as that is included in cleaner energy as we work through selection of those resources this year. We're in year 4 of our STEP program. STEP is an important resource to us relative to driving out demand and providing energy efficient solutions to our customers. Again, our goal there is equivalent to saving a power plant in 5 years, over 400 megawatts. And then Under financial strength, we've got a state filing with our transmission cost of service that's going to be moving forward this year. We'll be discussing our cost of service for the balance of our system. And then we have a number of initiatives that we really haven't spent a whole lot of time. I know Corey alluded to this in a recent presentation, but just around how do we make our business more efficient? We do a lot of stuff that we don't come out and talk about, but we've got a number of initiatives just to operate more efficiently. And we're going to unlock more of those as we roll forward with ERP. And then from a team excellence perspective, I mentioned the sticky measure or focus on really severe accident injury potential and working to reduce that likelihood. We've got a lot of safety culture work also rolling out across the organization. And with all of this change, we're under so much change occurring just as a world, as a society, but here at the utility, all the things I've talked about, our power generation changing, significant build out of transmission, a tremendous amount of growth in our system. All of that change, we're all humans. And so in conjunction with not only our Evolve team, but also with our people and culture team, really a concerted effort across the organization to build, grow, and develop our change management capability. Because the changes that are coming at us are going to be pretty significant, from how do I get my work done day to day with Evolve to the types of assets and market changes and system changes that are occurring, across the state. And so just as a kind of a look ahead, as we think about the future and we think about moving into toward 2050, where our services are always on in the eyes of our customers, that we're continuing to manage and be one of the most affordable and valuable utilities, and we're transitioning to cleaner forms of energy. As we move into that future, every 5 years, and on a continuum, we're going to be updating our strategic plan, our targets, just thinking, how do we continue to focus on all the changes we need ultimately on that path to 2050. So you're going to see 5-year business plans on that 2030, 2035, 2040 kind of time frame, ultimately to make sure that we're making that continual improvement toward our path to 2050. And that's all I have for you today, so I'll entertain any questions that you all have.
Okay, let's open up for questions. Remember, try to keep your questions to one question so that everyone here will have an opportunity to ask a question or make a comment. Peter, you want to start?
Here, I got you.
Thank you, Elena, for the presentation and the great work you do as Chief Strategy Officer. Last night I was at a community neighborhood association meeting, and a clear result was there and presented on a project that we're working on, and the value of that work. And many were very intrigued on things they didn't know, right? The community finding out the impact that it has. And I strongly believe that energy efficiency is really the key to affordability. And of course, I'm an advocate for STEP. Wanted to tie my question to the measures. We can go to that 8th slide, that's slide 8, on the measures, when we talk about the value and the new measure. And I know that there was a grant that CPS received from the Department of Energy, which was a community resiliency project, I believe. And part of that grant required 65% of the benefit from that project to be in disadvantaged communities. And there would be metrics that would have to be provided back based on the grant. I know I haven't got an update on that recently, but I wanted to chime in on that metric with the new measure. And also considering what I've advocated for as well, which is a strategic community resiliency plan, which is more of a deeper dive. I wanted to know if you had started to implement anything like that revolving around that value piece, where you could really measure the impact that STEP has had on the bills, where the rubber meets the road with those customers, to be able to show the value right back. So when we do make that appeal for the increase, when and if it happens again, that we will have that type of data, that we're very strategic in lowering the rates in our community. So that's my question, is how are you factoring that type of work into that value component with the affordability piece?
Yeah, thank you, Peter, for the question. I really appreciate it. So at a macro level, STEP, we do annual measurement and verification, fancy words for how are we doing. We've invested this dollar, what are we getting out of it? And we use Clear Result, and we have a number of data sources. We've consistently been able to demonstrate that for each dollar we put into STEP, there are $3 of benefit that come back in aggregate. So STEP, oftentimes I know sometimes people will feel like, why am I investing in energy efficiency and demand response? It's actually a really wise supply strategy, right? And so I just wanted to put that out there. Relative to the work that we've got going on with the federal grant, we do have co-funding of a project that we already had in flight and we intend to move forward with, which involves resiliency, including batteries. And that project actually it's going to actually add value in several places on this scorecard. I will say, you touched on the total bill, right? Obviously, as we can drive energy demand out, not only directly in homes and businesses, but we'll be able to optimize voltages. It's getting nerdy here, sorry. Voltages on circuits, that as you lower voltage, your demand actually goes down. And so we're using technology to do that to help drive down energy use. But also, outage duration, where we can have resilient surfaces such that if we have a power interruption, we've got a battery backup, or that we can intelligently switch circuits. That project is also designed to help those measures. Relative to kind of broader resiliency, we are working right now on a report of kind of our resiliency efforts. It doesn't strike to exactly what you're asking, which is, can I tell at the customer level, I invested this dollar, how much did this customer save? That goes into that aggregate that I talked about. We don't release individual customer data, but we do measure that in that MNV. So hopefully I've answered your questions, but I'm happy to visit now or after on that. But thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll catch up later. Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Cantu, you had a question?
Yes, thank you so much for your work and the presentation. On that slide as well, on customer perception, the target 705, 710. In what context is that in? Is it like out of survey numbers? Why 705, 710? In what context? And also sorry, second question, if it's okay. Is there any way that you can also include on this measure if we're able to get people into the discounted programs? Could that be included in there? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. The measure is based on survey results. We quarterly measure, and we have a third party. We use two different organizations, both J.D. Power and a company called Escalent, to measure our customer satisfaction. They do that both online as well as telephone. And there's a series of questions that roll into this score. We, as you might expect, had a pretty sharp decline after Winter Storm Uri, and we've been steadily increasing and just set kind of a high since that period. Again, we had a 699 goal this year. We do know we're going to continue to have some headwinds, so we are working to continue to improve that measure. So that's kind of mathematically and procedurally how that is derived. Relative to enrollment of customers, we are talking about, and we do have measures around our assistance programs and how we enroll folks not only in affordability discount, but other services. And so we can get back with you on that. I don't have a precise answer for you right now, but appreciate that. And maybe, Matt, we could capture that. Thanks.
Julian, I'll let you go next. Okay.
So cleaner energy carbon intensity, you already know what I'm going to ask. So, the city's climate action and adaptation plan mandates community-wide net zero by 2050, and the CPS portion has a short-term goal of reducing carbon intensity towards the net zero goal, and then a longer-term goal obviously has to be total emissions reductions, otherwise we won't get to net zero, community-wide net zero. And that's not, the way the cap was written was a little bit weird because it's not total CPS emissions, it's actually just scope 2 for City of San Antonio, whatever, there are, there's an asterisk there. But if you're saying that the target for fiscal year 2027 for carbon intensity is 790 pounds per megawatt hour, that would mean that from the starting point, which was 2016, because the cap starts at 2016, that CPS is not reducing carbon intensity fast enough in order to eventually get us to net zero by 2050. The 2016 carbon intensity, I think, was about 920 maybe pounds per megawatt hour. And so it's good, the reduction's good, but 130 pounds per megawatt hour reduction over 10 years is not fast enough if we're going to meet that net zero goal. And then also looking at emissions, the emissions are not going down fast enough either. So, we need CPS to be working with City of San Antonio on developing, stronger metrics and targets to meet that net zero goal. Could you speak to that? And also you said that final result for 2026, not applicable, so there was no target for carbon intensity. Is that what you're saying?
Thank you for both questions. Let me take them both in order. And so first up, relative to carbon intensity versus absolute carbon emissions, first up, we're putting this in our quarterly scorecard for the first time. We've had it, but we've monitored and we do our generation planning toward it. So I think that's going to be really helpful, and it's going to help, I think, with the conversation around carbon intensity as it moves, because we don't directly control all of it, right? I mean, the market drives a lot of this. So we've had discussions that this year we're going to report on it. We're going to report where carbon intensity is, but we are not necessarily going to be setting a target to say we will absolutely achieve this, because there are going to be a number of factors outside of CPS Energy's control. The big things that we're going to do to move the carbon intensity are moving away from resources that are highly carbon intensive. So carbon intensity gets substantially lower when you have big asset moves. We don't do that year over year because it'd be financially detrimental to the utility, right, and to our customers. So, but as we do our generation planning and we move less efficient technologies out and we bring less emitting, more efficient technologies into our portfolio, we are going to see that intensity decline over time. And so, 2030, the cap was written with carbon intensity as the measure. 2030, we're targeting a 41% reduction. 2040 is 71%. And then, as you mentioned, that aspirational goal of becoming net zero by 2050. So appreciate that. I just wanted to provide that backdrop of the overall measure and how you'll see carbon intensity move within the year. You're going to see it move seasonally, right? We get the spring, we see mild temperatures, very windy, so we're going to see a lot of wind in the ERCOT system. We'll see our plants in outage. You'll see a certain emissions, carbon intensity emissions profile. It'll look different in the winter when you have very cold temperatures. Maybe those, like the cold spell we just went through, where we saw extreme cold weather during early morning hours, where there wasn't sun producing. There was more wind, but not a substantial amount of wind. So the emission profile of the power sector looked different during that time. So this is going to move around, and I think it's going to be great because it's going to inform the conversation about how we plan resources for the long term, and then how the market moves, day to day, quarter to quarter, and year to year. But again, our goal is to plan to and execute to that 2030 and 2040 timeline. So those are the targets that we're headed toward. So the second question about our 26 LE. We did not have this as a measure in the scorecard, but we report all of our carbon emissions to the EPA. And so we do have those measures, and they do go into not only our reporting, but also into our planning efforts. Thank you for the questions.
Hey, Bob.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for the information. It's been very informative. I guess first as a comment, similar, I'm going to add on to what Adelita said with regards to the customer perception. I'm not sure if that metric really means anything to us. Maybe something else would be different, something we could say, yeah, it's good, bad, ugly, whatever. But I think it just doesn't mean a whole lot, to be honest with you. So that's my first comment. The other question I have is plant availability. 81.5 seems low. I'm assuming that is unscheduled outage of the generation plants, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and do you have a measure of, I'm not going to ask for the numbers today, but I'm assuming that a lot of it has to do with equipment age, right? And probably has a lot to do with the coal plants versus the nat gas plants, right? And has CPS looked at the O&M to bring that number up? And 87 even seems low. Typically, I'm used to seeing like 91, 92, 93 number. Is that even going to be realistic to get up to a 90s number? Or maybe you can explain a little bit more what that's going to look like in the future.
Yeah, that's a great questions. The 81.5% that we're estimating for this year is absolutely lower than we want, right? I mean, let's be honest. We would love to have 100%, which, anytime the plant's called on, we would love to have them available, and that's really ultimately mentally what we strive for, right? Especially during those critical periods. You are right. We have had predominantly our older units, right? So think about conventional steam boilers that are from the 60s, 70s, tube failures, things like that came unexpectedly. And so we were fortunate to have been acquiring plants for our ultimate transition to newer units, because this hasn't had a substantial impact to our wholesale sales. They really kind of help fill in the gaps. But we do recognize that we've got an aging fleet, and we do set targets based on, our forced outage rates that we've seen, and are investing in systems to improve the metallurgy of our boiler tubes, to look at our mechanical failures, and ultimately keep those older units running as reliably as possible. And so absolutely, we've got, I don't know if we've shown this group, but we can. We've got this kind of histogram, sort of this is like a Pareto chart by age of our assets. And a lot of our assets are significantly, old, and that's what's contributing in large part to the less than ideal performance. But we are investing in both on the O&M and the capital side to improve plant reliability. Thank you.
Any other questions? Dave?
There we go. So you have a lot of irons in this fire. I know you spoke about, and you had something on the slide about independent third-party assessments going on.
Yes, sir.
What parts of this do they actually review? How do they engage with us? And how does their feedback inform your updating these measures?
It's a great question. We have multiple folks that help us with this. I'm going to go back to this slide. Kind of starts early on in the external benchmarks. So we do subscribe to a number of entities for comparing our performance on the transmission and distribution side. We were talking about generation reliability. We do submit all of our outage information into a generation availability data set that goes ultimately into NERC. And so we do have quite a bit of comparison of performance with consultants that benchmark utilities across the U.S., as well as databases that we submit information to see how are we performing relative to our peers in the industry. Relative to these metrics, we have contracted with an independent third party that goes through all of these. And so they look at our data sources and challenge us and really help us try to validate if these are sound metrics and are the targets stretch. And so that's how we have traditionally approached this, is to have that independent group just looking at this to determine, based on our historical performance, or look out at the trends that are coming at us. Are these reasonable measures, and are they set at a stretch level?
Hi, Elena. Thank you for the details today. I wrote down, how do we make CPS more efficient? I think you said that in the presentation. I think it's so powerful and important as we go through these metrics. We know about 20 to 25,000 people are moving to San Antonio, which means they need homes, they need shopping, they need schools, development, et cetera. So from the business community, if I look back at slide 8, I'm missing an item there as it relates to new power connections. And some of the feedback that I'm getting from the business community is power connections are taking too long, and it's costing them money, which in terms, at some point, the house is going to cost more money. So how are we measuring that? Is it under reliability? Is it under value? Are we tracking? And to be fair, I don't know what that definition of taking too long is. So maybe in terms of benchmarking with up and down I-35. I would like a little bit more insight into that so that when that question comes up in the future, I can be able to give them some feedback.
Thank you for the question. And I probably should have caveated this. These measures are the ones that we're going to be reporting on quarterly to the board and to our executive team as sort of our enterprise measures, the big things we've got our eye on. We measure hundreds, probably thousands of things as an organization. And we have another set of measures that nest under these. So we have some tiering of measures that roll up to what we're ultimately, striving for. So so we do measure that. We do measure kind of all of our development cycle times. We can take an action to get back with you on that and share what we do measure and also comparisons. I know we're in quite a bit of different space than we were right after COVID. As we were going through COVID, we had some real supply chain challenges to new construction. We are a booming community and have a ton of construction work ahead of us, and our teams are extremely busy, but we do track from customer request to energization and all the steps in between. So thank you for that, and we'll just looking at the team back there, making sure we're capturing that action to get back with you. Okay.
Okay, so we can stay on time. Tom, you'll have the last question.
Good. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for your presentation. Extremely thorough kind of scorecard, so I want to applaud you for that. I guess my question for all of us is, how can we help you? In your strategy, as you think about a scorecard, you think about your near-term strategy, as you think about your longer-term strategy, what is it that you would look to the CIC to help you with?
Thank you for the question. Actually, what you've done today is extremely helpful, right? To listen to what we're thinking about, provide us feedback, whether it is, hey, this customer metric, we need to learn more about it and understand what that sentiment means, to how we're thinking about decarbonization for the long term. Maybe we've thought about it this way in one manner, but maybe we should revisit that and think about this differently. The development community is experiencing something. We need to understand how the utility is measuring and thinking about that, because selfishly, the sooner we can get our meters going, we want that, right? So I think being a sounding board, being eyes and ears in the community, and also being just thoughtful business and community leaders to help us think through not only measures but also the initiatives, and be a voice for what we're up to as well. Those are the big things that we really value, and it's not just formally in presentations like this. It's also, if you all are having or seeing different things in the community or out in the industry, we really want to hear from you and be actively engaged with you all, because we are utility people. We can get in a room and we can create grandiose ideas and get stuck in our engineer speak, and it may not resonate with ultimately our community and the customers we serve. So you guys provide such a valuable just a place for us to have that sounding board.
Thank you, Elena, and thank you, Tom, because once again, it's amazing how you ask questions that are in my head. We think too much alike, it's a little scary, isn't it? Anyway, for the interest of time, we're going to wrap this up, but if any of you have additional questions, please send those, forward those, I guess, to Matt, and we'll follow up on any additional questions you have on this presentation. But thank you. Let's move on into some other items. Just want to remind you that the next Board of Trustees meeting is February 23rd, and it'll be the first meeting of our new trustee, Dr. Erica Gonzalez. And a reminder that we're going to have a reception with the board immediately following the 23rd board meeting, and it should be around, I hope, between 4:30 or 5. And it'll be in this room. We'll just make sure that you all get introduced, all of you who can attend, and it'll be very informal opportunity just for the board to meet you folks, and I think it'll be very, very valuable for this group. And hopefully you got a notice about that, an invitation for that in your email. So hope as many of you as possible can be there. Now, one thing that's coming up is CPS Energy and SAWS will be presenting at a B session to the City Council on March the 4th. to provide information on resource requirements of large loads like data centers. Boy, this is a really important meeting. And this is a response to a broader council consideration request from District 6 Council Member Rick Galvan regarding the city's options when it comes to data center development. If you or anybody in the public is interested in following along in that conversation, please put that on your calendar. I don't think I have a time for that. Do we? What time is it? It should be at 2 p.m. Okay, about 2 p.m. in the council. Hopefully you'll see some more information about that, where that is and what time. Our next CIC meeting is scheduled for March 11th, and you'll notice in some of the notes that Matt just handed out that we did a little survey after the last meeting to see who would be there. It looks like there's enough of you that we can have a quorum, so we're going to stick with the March 11th date, even though I know that's during a lot of school districts' spring break. That meeting is right now is scheduled to include an update on the generation plan from David Key and Kevin Paulo, so hopefully you can attend that. Matt just handed out the responses to the action items from the January 14th meeting, and so if there's any additional discussion or follow-up on those items, just send an email to Matt or myself, and we'll make sure we follow up with you on that. And as you recall, let's see, I think we've got about 5 minutes, so, and I want to have some time at the end of any meeting for any member here just to make a comment or a question or something that's very important to them. I know we have very limited time, and Dr. Cantu.
Not a question, but just a request. Is it possible, I know data centers are a very hot issue right now, and I'm wondering if CPS might be able to do some kind of presentation for us relative to when a data center comes, what type of energy is utilized, and how would that be utilized in the context of San Antonio and the community we have in San Antonio? Just in terms of education for myself. I'm just going to be selfish here. But I know it's a really, really hot topic, and I'd really like to have all the information of how it impacts our community. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Christopher?
I've had a chance to see the SAWS rate adjustment presentation twice now, which is pretty informative, and I encourage everyone to keep an eye out if you have a chance to see it in person or virtually. I suspect they're going to be giving it many, many times the next 2 months as they gear up toward presentation again to City Council and a potential vote. And I suggested in part, they're looking at potentially upwards of an 8% adjustment year over year for, I think it's 4 years, with some variability in there. And the last time they had a rate hike was in 2020. So while their capital needs are different and there are other unique aspects to SAWS and to CPS, it might be helpful if you, both just as a customer but also as a CIC member, see what their process might be like for their rollout in the event that when we go through our rate advisory committee process, some of those similar issues may be coming up.
Thank you.
Chris, don't they have, SAWS has a similar body to this that advises SAWS, correct?
They had their own rate advisory committee, I think, also, and they have
specifically rate advisory, not just kind of a customer.
They have a Citizens Conservation Committee, they have a CEC, and then there's, I think, the rate advisory committee that they stand up at the time that they start preparing for all.
Have you attended any of those? I mean,
well, I was at a CCC meeting this morning, and they were looking at it sort of the broad overview, but also how conservation fits into that, and that has some parallel here with energy efficiency and how CPS does things. Their cheapest new water source by a long shot is conservation. Vista Ridge, is helping them plan long term. At the same time, it's coming in from the north, right? And in a very hot summer, on very hot days, almost all of the Vista Ridge water goes to the Stone Oak and north part of town, which is kind of amazing that they're using that much. It is saving pumpage fees, because remember, so many of the plants for sods are south of town, so you have to pump uphill, maybe upwards of above 1,000 feet above sea level. So there's some savings there. But I think that's 120 miles of pipeline, and there aren't a whole lot of other places left these days. So conservation is a big word, I think, for both areas.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, thanks for your input. I want to remind you that want to make sure that we communicate well as a committee. So if there's anything that comes up between meetings and you want to give input to the committee or the staff, please email Matt and/or myself, and we'll work to respond to that. I think I made reference to the action items from the last meeting. Again, those are handed out to you. Again, if you have follow-up on that, let us know. And at this point, I'll ask Matt if there's any action items that we need to follow up from this meeting that you made a note of.
Sure, thank you, Chair. We'll go over the action items we captured from this meeting. One of them was looking into inclusion of a metric in Vision 2030 that measures enrollment in our affordability discount programs, a response to how we measure customer interconnection times and how we track that information, and then requesting a presentation specifically around data center energy usage. And then also making sure we receive this input as well too, making sure that we get a calendar invitation around to all of the CIC for the March 4th B session with council so that y'all can attend or listen into should you want to.
Yeah, I think that was in there, yeah. Okay.
That's okay. Any others that we missed, Chair?
Anything else we missed? Okay, I want to thank you all for your attendance and your participation today. Now we're going to break and go to our working group meetings, and they will be in the meeting rooms where they usually are, and the staff will help direct you to those meeting rooms, and we should have the name of the working group on the particular meeting room. So, and our purpose is elect a chair and co-chair, and also informally discuss possible topics and issues that need to be addressed by each of your individual working groups. So with that, we're adjourned.